Hello and welcome back. We are going to have this next video actually be kind of a quicker video, I think. I don't have very much to say with respect to these three acronyms, but we're continuing our discussion around these design principles, these acronyms that sort of help us keep the code smells at bay within our programs. So for each of these three that we're going to go through, I do have a small coding example that I'll include. I'll include the code, but we'll also go through it in this video. So let's go for it. So the first one is dry, and dry stands for don't repeat yourself. And I've said this before, but now I have a whole slide on it. Anytime that you copy and paste code from anywhere, that is a red flag. It should be enough to give you a second to pause and ask, what are you doing? If you have genuinely the same logic in two places or more, that can mean bugs. So if you are copying an if statement and all you're changing is the variable name, why do we have the same if statement in two places? Should this be a method? Maybe not, but maybe it should be. So there's a good chance that we need to do some refactoring so that we end up with methods, helper classes or helper methods, maybe shared utility classes, stuff like that. So let's finish off the DRY acronym with an example. So here we have the Bank 52 example. So let me just run the code because it should actually do stuff. Java Bank app 52. Oh yes, I renamed it. So I'm going to have to, those silly mistakes, so silly. All right, if you watched my previous application, my previous video with the refactor where I did like a full refactor, you'll know that this whole giant constructor should be refactored. I'm not going to do it right now. I will leave it for you as an exercise should you choose to spend some time doing that. But for right now, we'll just assume that we did that and it's fine. So let's go ahead and make an account. We can add the customer in. Let's go with Joe Fresh, definitely a real customer. Add another customer in. These account numbers are all nonsense. None of it matters. And Ashish Nasrallah. Okay, awesome. When we click search, it tells us we need to fill in all of our fields. If I go search for my name, I have to fill in all fields, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, search, and it was searching for me. Cool. I guess that means it didn't find me. Perhaps it required me to write it like this. Not great error messages here. Can't remember what I did. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I mean, that looks right. It's not clear to me if it found the customer or not. But that's not really the point of this. We can see it's not super great for lots of different reasons. Okay, so a reminder what it is that we are trying to figure out how to do better. So we are going to try and fix the dry sort of code smells. And dry is when we did copy paste scenarios. So for example, here we can see that we have the exact same input panel field additions. However, they both have a label and they both have a field, and they're both copy pasted one after another. This isn't really logic based, but it's certainly copy pasted code. So whenever we see something like this, we can ask ourselves, is this something that we could turn into a method? So let's do that. Let's add a private method just for this one here. Right here, private void. We'll be taking these two lines of code here, and we're going to be creating a new field. Create field. Now, in order for this to work, I'm going to need to bring the input panel in, and that's a J panel. There we go. What else do I need to bring in? Well, it looks like these already exist out at the highest level. So do they have to exist out at the highest level? Oh, yes, they do. Okay, but we can pass them in, and we can also pass in the label. So we could pass in the JText field and the label that we want to make. And right here, this new J label could just be label, and this name field can just be field. And now we can just go ahead and replace these lines up here with create field, pass in the input field, pass in the name field, and pass in the customer name. Whoops. And now anytime that we're going to be making labels and fields, it can all be done using this one method. Now, this might seem like a very minor difference at this moment in time, and I can completely understand why, because it is. However, it's important to know that when you reach a place where you're going to be running automated front-end tests, you have to actually put like specific tags on each of your fields. Now, if this was copy and pasted everywhere as it was before, you would have to go through every single one and find a way to add these tags in. If we have a method like this, all I need to do is, for example, take the label, and I could do, field dot add label. I think that's the method name, but I can't even remember, and do like a join on it or something, and do string dot join like this. Join, or I guess it's not even a join. Oh, it is. That's what I get for doing this on the fly. Split on any spaces, and then take that array and join it together with no spaces between it, and then take that entire string and make it to lowercase. There we go. And so now something like customer name becomes the label customer name, right? So we can see how not having to write this line that I now need for every single one of my fields come iteration 3, I don't have to write it for every single one, I just put it in one place, would be incredibly beneficial. Okay, so we can see that already solving some problems there, right? We can also see that there may be situations in which we even have like multiple adds here where we're constantly adding to our J-frame. We're adding different components to our J-frame. We have to add the component, either panels or panes, and we're adding the different borders. It's totally possible that it would make sense for something like this to be in a method as well. The other thing that we can see here is that in both of our action listeners, both add button and in the search, again, this should not be on the front end as we just saw in my previous refactor video. This would be something you would put in a manager helper class anyway. But what we do see happening is that right here, if the name is empty or the account information is empty, we want to say, please fill in all the fields. We do that on the add button, and we do that right here on the search button, where we get the name, we get the account, and we want to run this code. So is there a way for us to now take this information and do this smarter? Yes, 100%. So what can we do? We can make a private helper method, private, and for now I'm just going to make it a Boolean. Again, it probably shouldn't be a Boolean, but we're just going to run with it for right now. Validate fields. And we're just going to pull all this into here. We can return false right here. Otherwise, we can return true. Okay, and we'll validate the fields. Again, we would not have validation on the front end. So important. This is just showing how we can combine code from different places to be smarter. Okay, we're not actually ever writing validation on the front end like this. Please hear me. Okay. So now instead of this saying, if this is the case, write please fill in all fields, I'll do if it's valid, we can do this. Okay, that's perfect. And now if, oh, I missed this bracket there, we can do the exact same thing up here where we can just say, if it's valid, we can do this. Awesome. Name and account should probably come in since we need them in the output area. It doesn't make sense for them to be just grabbed inside the validate fields method. So they are here, but we don't really need to do it twice. We could, but it's just not necessary. I can just do this, and that will work beautifully because I have to do it here anyway, right? There is another alternative, which is what we can see happening here is that all these were actually doing was like outputting random information to the output area. This again is not going to be like stellar, but the fact that this is all duplicate code as well suggests that maybe we take this even one step further, and instead of like calling a validate field, we do something like a perform bank action, and inside perform bank action, all we really need to pass in would be the action that we're performing. And the add button does this one, and the search button would do this one. And now I can actually just pick up this whole thing, remove it in its entirety, perform bank action, come down here for my private void perform bank action, take in the string output message that I've just set up, and then I can just put all of this in here. Oops, with the difference now only being that this is the output message. And so now I've taken this one step further. I could even make another method, public void clear text fields, that will take these so that it's a little bit clearer as to what those do. Again, I have no comments, so the clearer I can make it, the better. Clear text fields, there we go. And so now I've cleaned up a lot of duplicate code. There's no real way around attaching the action listeners. Like, you want to attach an action listener for each, but we do understand that like all of that logic could be extracted and put somewhere else. And now all I'm doing is passing in this information right here. In fact, one is a customer added and one was a searching for, but this part is the same for both. And since I don't even have the name or account up here, I haven't run this yet, so that's why I'm like making like kind of dumb mistakes of like forgetting to deal with that. But what I could do is I could actually pick this up too, get those semicolons in there. And then where I'm actually doing my message right here, my output message, I can just append that on, right? Because we do know that we need that name, we need that account number, all in there. So we saw it working before. Here's hoping I don't have too many errors. Yay, no errors. Okay, we run it, and what we'll see, if it runs, is that it runs exactly the same, right? Lauren, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 4 apparently. Add, fill in all fields still works the same. Search still works the same. Lauren, 1, 2, and 4. Search, that's who we're searching for, right? Oops, I didn't actually add myself ever. Not that it would make a difference, because as we saw, our code doesn't actually do anything. It just adds information to this sort of output screen here. But that's how that would work. Cool. So hopefully you'll be able to take the bank app 52 file and make some meaningful changes to it for yourselves to try it out. Okay, our next one is KISS, or keep it simple, stupid. We really want to avoid over-engineering. And while trying to balance this with the Agni can be a little bit tricky, we really want to try and make sure that we are sort of keeping it as simple as we can. We're not overthinking problems and trying to consider 9 million different scenarios that just isn't going to happen right now. So for example, let's take a look at this order processor code. So we have some order processor code over here. This is left behind from before. And what we have going on is that we have like a table that's putting a bunch of tax rates in, like we have a bunch of tax rates being added in, and then we're calculating we have a method here for calculating our total, for processing our total order, for processing our test order, and then we're logging to console, and then pretend we're logging to a database down here. Now, this might look completely fine, but with a little bit of context, we might understand that this has actually been built for a school in Texas. A school in Texas sells things like sweaters and hats and binders and stuff like that. Like, think of like a bookstore. Okay, so it was especially designed for this bookstore. So knowing that is the case, we all of a sudden realize this is actually much simpler, which means we don't need a hash map, right? We don't need it because we're only going to be dealing with the Texas rates. Now, yes, maybe there's some world where we are sort of expanding this outward and doing cooler things with it. But at this point in time, if all we're doing is using this for this Texas bookstore, that's unnecessary. In fact, any kind of hash map is probably unnecessary in total. So maybe instead we just have a tax rate. Oops, double tax rate, where we list our tax rate. I can spell, there we go. We don't need any of this at all. And now all of this becomes a lot simpler, right? We're able to do things a lot quicker and a lot simpler. We can do this. We can just make this like this. In fact, we're not even storing subtotal anywhere. I guess this has to be 1 times 1 plus our tax rate. That's not worth it. We'll just keep those separate. It's not worth me having to figure out all that extra math right now. This is just for the bookstore. What is it that we might be testing? If we take a look to see what we have being tested here is, there's a lot of duplicate code in here that seems to be probably pretty unnecessary for testing versus not. What's the difference here? The test state is being passed in, but we only ever have one state. So that's probably not that necessary. Instead, we can just do something like this. Whoops. Like this. Calculate total. This should probably be private. We're going to process our order. Our one thing is happening here. We don't need 2 identical methods at all. We can use this method for testing if we do want to test this out, but we're not testing by state at all. This is just processing orders and testing it based on that. And when we look at the code and we see that these are, as of right now, technically doing the same thing, perhaps we don't need both, right? If it's just for a local bookstore, maybe we just need an error message that prints to the screen and that's good enough. Now I'll leave both for right now, but we can sort of see that we can take this really big program that somebody thought, well, what if we want to, expand this to all 50 states, and now we have to put all of those in, and every single province, let's make sure we add all those in as well. And it's getting bigger and bigger when in reality we made this order processor for a local bookstore. Who knows, right? So just sort of keeping that in mind, keeping it simple, right? There's no reason for us to go over the top if we don't have to go over the top. All right, our last one is the Principle of Least Astonishment, or PoLA. And basically, this is exactly what it sounds like. Code should do what users and devs expect. There's a difference between an add and a save, right? So an add might add something to a screen, a save might commit it to a database. They both might do similar sort of functionality, but the longevity of your data makes a difference between add and save. So making sure you're using the right language and stuff like that will allow us to avoid violations of this principle. Now I have one more existing Java example of this in PoLA 52. So we'll head over there, we'll go look at that code, and what we'll see is some code here. Question, what should happen? We have an array as a list. The list is of integers. We take our array of integers as a list, 1, 2, 3, 4. If you know, this will make our array into a list, and we're going to store it into this list of integers. And then we say list.remove. Now, if you're asking yourself what outputs and you think it's obvious, good for you, because it's not that obvious. Because when we call an array lists.remove, we can pass in the object or we can pass in the index. We're passing in a 2. Is this going to remove the number 2? Whoops. Or is it going to remove the value from the second position? Isn't that interesting? This definitely violates a principle of least astonishment because I have no idea what's intended to happen here. I don't know if that list.remove2 was supposed to remove the value 2 or the value 3 that's living in the second index, right? So let's run it just for fun. If you don't know what this does, we can see what it's going to do. And that's always good news. And what we can see happening is that it actually removes the second index. Now, if you don't know why it's doing this, I can explain it really quick. It doesn't actually matter for this, but you might be interested. And it's the fact that this 2 is an int. So it's going to go and remove the value indexed at position 2. If instead you wanted to remove the integer 2, you would have to do something like this, turning it into an integer object so that yeah, I know that that's deprecated, but it's a warning. But now it will actually remove the object value 2. So absolutely violation of principle of least astonishment, but a really simple scenario that maybe you wouldn't have thought of when working through your code. So at this point in time, I want you to go and look through your code, the code you've worked on this week or maybe previously, and see if you can find something in your project that's maybe more complex than is actually needed, and see if you can simplify it. If it's really easy, maybe you'll simplify it quickly, or maybe you need to make a Git issue that defines the problem and then bring it to your group where you guys can all sit together and talk about a solution. With that, that is those 3 principles. So just as a quick recap of the principles and acronyms that we have so far, we have the separation of concerns, SOC. We have DRY, which is do not repeat yourself. We have KISS, which is keep it simple, stupid. We have PoLA, which is the principle of least astonishment. And from previous, we have YAGNI, you ain't gonna need it. We're gonna keep adding to our list of acronyms as this week goes on, and we'll have lots more great examples that I'll go through in my videos as well. Thanks for joining me, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.